You're listening to the Bird Dog Babe podcast with my mom, Courtney Bastion.
This episode is presented to you by Purina Pro Plan and Boss Shotshells.
That first field trial, somebody loaned me their walking horse to get on, and I had ridden horses my whole life, so it really kind of flowed. And I got on that horse, and I was watching those Irish setters running because it was the Irish Setter Gun Dog Championship. And I instantly knew that's where I was meant to be. I was meant to be in that saddle watching red dogs run, and I pretty much said, take all my money. Like, this is what I want. So.
Hey, Bird Dog Babes. My name is Courtney Bastion, and I am obsessed with all things bird dogs. And I'm here to share with you the stories, experiences, knowledge, and opinions from the women and a few guys in the industry that are killing it. I'm a Wisconsin girl living in a Montana world, mom and two incredible kiddos, wife and occasional assistant to a pro gun dog trainer, traveling the U.S. talking about canine nutrition while hunting, raising, and competing with my German Wirehair pointers and Brachy Italiano. As someone who started hunting later in life because I wanted to give my dogs the opportunity to do what they were bred to do, I'm here to help inspire, educate, and connect women to get their bird dogs out in the field and experience a bond like no other. So pour yourself a glass of wine and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. This is the Bird Dog Babe podcast. Today we are hearing from Kelli Aitken of Quantonas Irish Setters. Kelli is the youngest and one of the few women who is actively breeding and competing in AKC and American Field horseback field trials with field-style Irish setters. Kelli shares her story of how she got started in Irish setters and where she is now. She also breaks down the breed characteristics and what you should know before adding an Irish setter to your family. All right, let's get after it. This episode is presented to you by Purina Pro Plan. What makes a great bird dog is genetics, training, and nutrition, and that's why I trust and feed Purina Pro Plan. With over 500 nutritionists, veterinarians, and scientists on staff, Pro Plan delivers a full spectrum of performance and specialized dog food formulas to help bird dogs like yours excel at every stage of life. Purina supports us, the breeders, owners, and trainers, the events we compete in, our national breed clubs, canine health research, and our committed partners to conservation groups such as Pheasants Forever, Rough Grouse Society, and Ducks Unlimited. 95 out of the top 100 dogs are fueled by the advanced nutrition of Purina Pro Plan. This episode is also presented by Boss Shotshells. Copper-plated bismuth Boss provides a better, more effective non-lead option than steel and are safe to use in Grandpa's gun. Available in 10, 12, 16, 20, 28 gauge, and 410, direct-to-consumer pricing and cases shipped right to your door. Shoot Boss, pattern your shotgun to make more clean and ethical shots, reduce crippling, and remove lead from the uplands, wetlands, and all lands. Find out more at bossshotshells.com. A big shout out to the people and the partners that are helping me to keep the MP3s rolling for this podcast. My Patreon patrons, the bread and butter, the peeps, the community of like-minded individuals that are eager to learn and offer to contribute. Join us for $5 per month on patreon.com/thebirddogbabe for exclusive discounts, content, and live Q&A sessions. 5% of your contribution goes to the AKC Canine Health Foundation, and another 5% goes to conservation. Dakota 283 unparalleled protection for your dog's travel to and from your next adventure. My favorite is the G3 Kennel, which has a recessed handle on top that makes it easy for me to lift in and out of my truck. The keyed panel latching door makes me feel at ease on trips when I have to leave dogs in my truck when I stop for fuel. An added bonus is the drain hole in the back, which makes cleaning a breeze when my dog has been run hard and put away wet. Go to Dakota283.com and use promo code BIRDDOGBABE for 10% off. And by Siren, Shotguns for Women. Siren carries the only full line of women's shotguns. They are dedicated to providing the equipment and knowledge that make shooting and hunting more enjoyable and less stressful. Newer seasoned hunter, Siren offers multiple options that fit right out of the box. No more compromises. Go to sirenusa.com and check out all the options available for upland, waterfowl, sporting, and trap shotguns. And while you're there, say hello to Julia, Siren's new 12-gauge sporting that is one of the most stunning shotguns I've laid my eyes on. Hey, Kelli, welcome to the podcast.
Hi there, Courtney. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thanks for coming on. I'm excited to talk to you today about all things Irish setters because I have a bit of a personal interest in these guys. An Irish setter was my first bird dog. I got her back in 2002. So I know there's a lot of cool and interesting stuff within the breed, and I'm looking forward to having you tackle that with me.
Hey, I'm looking forward to it. I'm really excited to be on. So thanks for having me.
If you could, Kelli, kick us off with a little bit about yourself and what you're doing with the Irish setters right now.
Okay. So my name's Kelli Aitken, and I live in Kansas, in Manhattan, Kansas. And what I do primarily, or how I might be known, is I handle show Irish setters. I've done that almost my whole life. And I do it for other people. So I'm a professional show handler, but these days I've kind of backed off from that. And I'm primarily, training my own and field trialing and hunting with my own Irish setters. So, I breed, raise, train, and campaign my own dogs, across the country in AKC and American Field, horseback field trials.
That is so cool. You're doing all the things. If I remember right, did I read that you're a third generation? Is it handler or third generation in dogs?
Handler, I would say, because it all started with my grandma, who was a professional handler. She used to show dogs back in the late 50s and 60s, even into all through until the 80s. But she was a professional handler for shows, and she traveled all over the country, including to the big shows like Westminster, showing all breeds. But she had some favorites and whatnot. But I was raised in that environment, so that's how I started off in dogs. I blame her.
What kind of breeds did she all handle?
She was an all breed handler, but she specifically, I remember through the years, dachshunds. She had some dachshunds, some smooth fox terriers. She had some Newfoundlands. She has some spectacular German shepherds. That's where Quantonas came from, actually, is she bred German shepherds back in the 60s and 70s, and her kennel name was Quantonas, and that's what I took that over when I started breeding my Irish setters. But so German shepherds and papillons, those are the kind of the breeds that stick out in my mind, in my memories from her showing. Okay,
very cool. Do you remember at all? Did she do any working venues with any of those dogs?
Yeah, she was really competitive in obedience, and she has a couple CDXs on some of her German shepherds. Nice. They in the 90s, 80s, I don't know. Yeah, it must have been the 80s. They opened up a boarding and training kennel, and I spent a lot of my childhood watching my grandparents put on training classes for everyday people with their pets that they've acquired, their dogs. That was really her forte, was the obedience training.
What breed did you grow up with?
So I it's funny. I grew up with in my grandparents' house, really, with their dogs. So German shepherds and papillons were the breeds that I was surrounded by the most. I didn't get to have my own dog until I was almost 16, really, before I got my own dog. My parents got me our first family dog when I was probably 12, when we moved into a real house with a decent backyard and stuff. And that was a German shepherd. But then my first Irish setter was when I was 16.
16. So tell us your age, because how long ago have you been in Irish setters then?
I'm 32, so that would be 16 years. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
No. Okay, can we rewind? I'm 35.
Yeah. That's awesome.
I was counting in my head. I was counting the years, and I'll be here all day. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
I love it.
Oh, that was a lie. 2 truths and a lie.
Okay. Well, that gives us a good general idea of where you're at. Okay, good. So you got your first Irish setter when you were 16. Why Irish setters? Was that your decision, or was that a gift of here is an Irish setter for you?
Okay, so when I was 6, I was at a dog show with my grandma, and I walked up to this lady who was grooming a dog, and it was the dog on the grooming table was an Irish setter, and I was like, wow, this dog is beautiful. And I knew what breed it was because I was fluent even at that age on all the registered breeds. And from that show, every year at those shows, I would go talk to that lady, and she is now my mentor and my pseudo mom. So that's why Irish setters. She and I developed a friendship, and she has guided me from then through my current situation. We still talk daily about breeding and dogs and genetics and all the good stuff. So it's probably a bit of circumstance is why I ended up with an Irish setter.
Yeah, it's priceless to have those mentors, especially ones that you're so closely connected with.
Absolutely. There's nothing that beats a quality mentor who's going to really help you make the person in the successful breeding program you have. So
yeah. So you met her at a show. So, I mean, explain a little bit how you got from showing to horseback field trials. Did you make that transition overnight? Help me out here.
That's a solid question right there. And it's kind of interesting. So, when I was in the Army, I was active duty for 6 years. During my second deployment, I had 2 of my mentor's name is Renette Berggren. And when I was at Fort Riley, Renette gave me 2 of her Irish setters, and I was, grooming them and showing them and whatnot. And when I deployed for the second time to Iraq, it was a 12-month deployment. And so I decided, I'm going to be away for this year doing, being productive and being engaged. I feel like my dogs should go somewhere where they're going to be productive and be engaged and learn something. So I decided to send them to a pro trainer, a field trainer, and have them. When I came back, I would like to do some hunt tests and maybe some walking field trials. I didn't really know much about a walking field trial at that point. I just knew that, the dogs point birds and they get to, be judged on that. So I've always been a competitive person, and I thought that might be interesting to me. So I sent them away, and when I got back from deployment, I attended my first field trial, and I picked up my dogs in that same time frame from the trainer. And that first field trial, somebody loaned me their walking horse to get on, and I had ridden horses my whole life, so it really kind of flowed. And I got on that horse, and I was watching those Irish setters running because it was the Irish Setter Gun Dog Championship. And I instantly knew that's where I was meant to be. I was meant to be in that saddle watching red dogs run. And I pretty much said, take all my money. Like, this is what I want. So that was the beginning of it. So that's all I got for that.
That's incredible. So you hadn't hunted or anything beforehand, and you just decided my dogs need a job while I'm gone?
Correct. I thought, it was a good way to engage their brains. It was going to teach, it's a structured environment. It's going to teach them something. And I was interested in hunting, not excessively. I just thought it'd be something fun to do with my dogs other than show them. And so that's kind of, I had no history of hunting. Nobody in my family had ever hunted. My dad, grandpa's, none of those people had ever been hunters. And so it's kind of, I'm the first generation to do this.
Wow. That's incredible. So at that field trial, did you notice that your Irish setters looked a little bit different than everybody else's?
Yeah, absolutely. And, I kind of had spent some time, like I had seen field bred Irish setters before, and I was like, meh, I liked the grooming. I liked the hair and stuff, but I knew there was a difference. And, that first field trial. And for the next year, I really started to take that in and acknowledge the difference. And it was a really big, I would say it was a key to that acknowledgement of the difference was a key to my progression as a breeder.
Right. And I mean, even their ability obviously to get you hooked, your dogs had some talent there. And so, I mean, go into that a little bit. Where did your dogs rank? Did you get titles on those that you had sent away?
So unfortunately, it was Kitty and Donegan were my two dogs, and they were both, when I got back, they had to be about 2.5 years old, just about. And I ran them in the hunt test that weekend because we had the hunt test in conjunction with the National Gun Dog Championship and some walking stakes. So I ran them in that, and my male, Donegan, he ran ginormous and beautifully and forward, and he was lots of drive and such, but he lacked the style, and I knew that. And he was when he was when it was hot out, I could see he was struggling a bit more. But he unfortunately died within about 7 months of me being home. And so I didn't get to get any titles on him. And the female, Kitty, I had a show championship on her. But unfortunately she was never quite broke enough to be really field trialed. She was decent style, and she was a hard worker, but she was better as a hunting dog. She was a really nice quail dog, not quite as good of a field trial dog, but that was something I was okay with. And I understood that. And I was thrilled to have a showbred Irish setter who was a great hunting companion. That was a moment of joy in my life.
Right. No, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time about that. I just think because my Irish setter was from a conformation line as well. And, there's so many things you learn about the separation and breed. It's like, well, they're all Irish setters, right? When you first start off.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
And
they really are. But there's just the different types. Different styles. Types, not the right word. There's different styles of Irish setters. So, it's important to know the differences.
Yeah. And I want to get into that actually, because Irish setters were, if you talk to parents, they'll say like Irish setters were such a popular breed when they were younger. And it's like after World War II, when the short hairs, the wire hairs, more of them started gaining popularity over here in the US, then the setters just kind of, didn't go away, but they weren't as popular. And so it's kind of interesting to see that transition in time period, but also within these different breeds and what has changed, what has remained the same. And ultimately it's us having our personal preferences and the ways that we are breeding them. So the fact that you continue to remain successful in both the show and the field, how are you keeping your lines able to do that? Are you breeding show and field together, or are you working two separate lines?
So as an individual, myself, I am choosing to have two separate lines. Okay. I don't breed between my show dogs and my field dogs. And that has a lot to do with my goals. My goals are to win championships, whether it be show championships or field championships. I like to win with healthy dogs, and I don't like to settle. I don't want to compromise or have mediocrity. And not that dual dogs are mediocre by any means, but the level of competitiveness I want to acquire or attain, it's not going to allow for me to mix between the two, not two sides, but the two styles. So I do keep them separate. I do not cross between my lines by any means.
That's super interesting. I know several people in other pointing dog breeds that do the same exact thing. Actually, a good friend is in Weimaraners that does that as well. Do you ever get tempted, like, to have that dual champion? Do you ever get a little bit tempted, like, if I take these two together, there could be some potential?
Absolutely. There's dual dogs behind my lines. Some really great dual dogs, including one really fantastic dual champion is all behind my stuff. And it would be nice, like, I have my bitch Reason, who's my heart and soul. And I am tempted to breed her to a quality show dog and see if I can get something that can still be competitive in the field and be good enough to squeak out a show championship. It's tempting. It really is. Unfortunately, I feel like I only have so much time and I can't, if I split myself up too much, I won't do justice to any one dog specifically. So I'm trying to, I've shown dogs that have gone on to attain their dual championship. They just haven't been dogs I've owned. So that's kind of a fun part. I've contributed in that way. I don't know if I'll ever have my own dual champion, and I'm not sure that that's something I'm going to chase in my lifetime, but we never know. Time may tell.
Right. Do you know how many dual champions there are in the breed?
There are 26 dual champions.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, it's very small compared to a lot of breeds. Of course, I'm sure you know that. But there's some, one specific breeder, Cassie Allen out of Ohio. She has contributed 4 of those dual champions and 3 were litter mates. So it's pretty amazing to see the
really
accomplishments.
Impressive.
Yeah. There's some consistency right there, to be able to attain that. And, 3 in 1 litter is going to never be seen again that would be my prediction, is no other breeder will be able to match that, let alone beat it. I think she's really set the bar high. And then, thanks to some great fellow dual breeders that have contributed to her success, but it's a pretty amazing thing to see a dual champion Irish setter.
Mm-hmm. How long ago has been the most recent dual champion? Do you know?
So since 2016, there's been 2, and I believe one was in 2017 and one was 2018, I think.
Okay.
I know as of 2016, there was 24 and now there's 26. And the 2 that are most recent were the brothers from, the litter of 3 that are dual champions. So,
okay. What about, any other venues? Like, do you dabble in NAVHDA at all? Do you do AKC hunt tests?
So I've run dogs in AKC hunt tests, and I'm actually working a bit on my retrieve with my Reason bitch, and I plan to hopefully compete in some hunt tests with her after this fall, after the national field trial, and whatnot. But other than AKC and American Field, horseback field trials, and walking field trials, I should say, I do compete in walking field trials. I'd like to try some NASTRA. I'd like to try NAVHDA, but I haven't. It's hard when there's only one of you and you have your handful of dogs, and to be able, I have to pick and choose where I go. Unfortunately, I'm not made of money, so I don't get to go everywhere I'd ever want to go and compete in everything. One of these days I will hopefully dabble in NAVHDA. That would probably be the next most interesting thing to me. And hopefully it's in the next year or 3,
Do you know, are there any versatile champion Irish setter in NAVHDA?
There are not.
Really? Interesting.
I was really bummed when I learned about that. I feel like there's some dogs. I've witnessed some dogs. I know there's some dogs in the pedigrees of some dogs I've seen that would probably be very competitive and could possibly have a chance at being a VC. But unfortunately it hasn't been acquired yet.
Okay. What do you think? Do you like in the NAVHDA testing system? I don't know how familiar you are with it, but doing those different versatile portions of the test, where do you think Irish setters would have a difficult time generally? Would it be in the water? Would it be tracking, like that grit that it would take to go out for a duck search and not come in until they find something? Where do you think the biggest struggle for the breed overall would be?
I think it would be, isn't there a fur component, a fur tracking component?
Typically it's a duck track. There is an option to have fur, but I haven't seen fur yet.
All right. I suspect the tracking component would be the most challenging. And that's just from my own experience with my dogs. I have incredibly high water drive with my dogs. Honestly, and it's a side note, like some of the best moves my dogs have ever made at field trials is because they saw a windmill and they knew that meant that there was a water trough up there. And so they just would go so big out the front because they knew there was water up there. So there's a lot of water drive. My dogs live to swim. And they do have very natural retrieves. So, I think with a bit of guidance, we could have that retrieve and that, duck search and whatnot. But when it comes to the tracking, that's probably would be the hardest part. I don't think it's impossible, but I think it would take some extreme work, from my experience with my own dogs.
Mm-hmm. Are Irish setters known overall to be a pretty water loving breed?
I feel like not specifically. It's not really something we see a lot out of. I think if you hunt your dogs a lot, they're gonna know how important water is, and they're gonna develop that drive to get in the water to cool off. If you're working your dogs when it's warm out, they're gonna learn about that water. But for the most part, your pet Irish setters and your field bred dogs that have never been out in the field and stuff, they're not going to have that drive to go get wet for the most part.
Okay. That makes sense. All right, let's dig into a little bit about this. This is confusing to me. So Irish setters versus red setters versus the red and white setters. Can you give us kind of like a 101 on what that all is?
Okay, so Irish setters and Irish red and white setters used to be essentially the same thing, and then there became a split. The more solid dogs became the Irish red setters, and the red and whites were red and whites. So that's where that came from. The Irish setters are, I'm sure you're aware of, significantly more popular. So that's kind of the gist of that. The Irish setters versus the red setters is where it gets a little more complicated. Back in the day, the Irish Setter Club of America allowed outcrossing of Irish setters in order to improve the hunting ability. And so we were allowed to outcross and then breed back into Irish setters for a certain number of generations, and then they would be registered Irish setters again. So that program went on. It was called the reciprocal registration, or that's what we refer to it as, is reciprocal registration. So those dogs, those Irish setters, after so many generations, they were considered Irish setters, were re-registered as AKC Irish setters, so on and so forth. Well, people that were participating in that program, there came a time when the Irish Setter Club of America voted to close that reciprocal registration, meaning we and disallow the outcrossing. So we didn't ban all the dogs that had done it in the past under our approval. We banned the future outcrossing, and basically anyone who wasn't registered at that point in time wasn't allowed to become registered through this program. So think of it as a race around a track. And if you made it through the finish line at the time that the ISCA said, okay, we're going to disallow this, you were good and you could be AKC Irish setters. But if you didn't make that cutoff, then you were left with a program that was just as close to being finished, but not quite there. So you lost your ability to register them as Irish setters. So when that happened, there was a group of individuals that no longer had AKC Irish setters, and they formed the American Field or Field Dog Stud Book Registry for Irish red setters. So those are what we call red setters. And what you'll see is that the red setters are going to almost always be the field style Irish setter. They look and run just like most field style Irish setters. They just don't have the AKC registration. And most of them are strongly related to the dogs that we see on the field side of things in the AKC. Some of them continued to outcross as they were approved to do through the American Field. But for the most part, you're going to see very similar, a very, very similar dog, but just with, one generation behind where they couldn't get their dogs re-registered as AKC Irish setters. That's kind of the really long version of it's simple.
It's really interesting.
Well, and the only other thing I was going to say is that to make it easy to understand, when people ask me what's the difference between a red setter and an Irish setter, how I explain it is that all Irish setters can be registered as red setters, but not all red setters can be registered as AKC Irish setters. That's it. That's the gist of it. So.
Will you see red setters in American Field then in the trials?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And I compete with, when I go to the red setter national field, national championship, I'm competing with mostly American Field red setters and a few AKC Irish setters who are dual registered as red setters. So, and to be honest, my dogs are AKC Irish setters. They look just like most of the dogs that are running there. My dogs tend to be a bit darker in color, but otherwise I would say they're pretty similar when it comes to style. And of course I'd compare them similar in run and application, et cetera, drive.
Okay. Is there any relation with how much white is in either of them as far as kind of what happened when they started going out and breeding to the other dogs?
Yeah, there can be. And I won't discredit that thought. I feel like sometimes we'll see that and people will comment on, sometimes I produce white. And what I say is white is very prolific in our breed. Is when you breed a little bit of white to a little bit of white, it tends to multiply and you get more white. So it's very hard to avoid. But what I will say is that I have often finished, I've finished Irish setters and I've seen Irish setters finish that have more white than any Irish setter that I have in my breeding program or most red setters. So the white exists on both sides, whether it be, in all three sides, the show, the dual, and the field style dogs. I won't say that the outcrossing is the only cause, because it's not.
Okay. Is there anything in the standard that says how much white they can have, or what would be considered a penalty?
No, so our breed does not have anything that disqualifies them when it comes to white. So it talks about the areas that white may be seen, and that includes the crud, I've got to look. Maybe it's the top of the head, but I believe the standard talks about the toes, the chest, the neck. I've seen dogs shown, that just is mentioning of the places it might be seen. It doesn't say it shouldn't be allowed. The only thing that's, there's other statements about what shouldn't be allowed, but it doesn't say that you have to disqualify a dog for having a white star on its head. Okay. So that's, if it comes to, there's no line drawn in the sand.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know with the Vizsla National, when they come up to the line, that's something that is evaluated as how much white they have. And if there's so much, they can't even run in the trial. So, but Irish setters are nothing like that.
Correct. We don't have any disqualifications. So,
okay. What about the size? So just talking about the breed in general, like what will you typically see for size difference in a male and a female?
So for my field dogs, I generally see my females are going to be upwards of 35 to 40 pounds, and my males are generally 45 to 50, 47 to 52 pounds is what I would say. The show dogs are obviously significantly more, and weight is hard to talk about with them or is harder to describe for them because substance can really do it. But you could see a female between 55 and 65, 70 pounds sometimes, depending on the substance, but 62 is probably a good weight range, an estimate, and males can get upwards of 75. Okay. You're looking at, 26, 27 inches at the shoulder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's a decent size difference between the two as well. Holy cow.
Correct. Yeah.
The little pocket rockets in the field then.
Yeah. It's nice to be able to pick it up and carry it out with one arm, as opposed to, my show dogs where I used to have to really, really pick them up.
Oh man. So how often are you personally breeding, each of those different lines, your field and your show?
So for my field dogs, I probably have on average a litter a year. Some years I won't have any, and some years I'll have, like this year I had 2 litters. So that's with the field dogs. With the show, I co-breed with my mentor for the most part. And I last had a litter with her. Let's see, they're going to be 2 here in about 2 months. Yep. 2 months. So it's been 2 years since I've had a litter with her. And I think we're going to breed one of our bitches again here soon. So.
Okay. So the little nuggets you have on the ground right now, that's one of your field litters.
Yeah, that's out of reason. So they're pretty.
Your heart dog.
Yes, she is.
Oh, and how many puppies do you have?
I have 6 right now. I'm watching them out the window. They're pretty awesome. They're really, really loud though, 6 weeks, it's hard. So
ooh, what a fun age.
Oh yeah. Until you have to clean up after them. Then it's not so fun.
Right. Is it difficult to find homes for Irish setters? Do you have waiting lists or you have people knocking at the door?
So I generally have a waiting list every year. If I don't have a waiting list I usually at least have 2-3 people, but if I don't have, a full list, I can expect to fill that list, by the time I have week-old puppies. I mean, people, there's a lot of interest I get, since this litter, and this litter was, spoken for well before the breed even occurred. Right. But since this litter, I have had they're 6 weeks old, and I've probably had 4 inquiries a week. And, wow. And that's, and I don't have the ability to supply that. And, right. Not everybody needs to be supplied with one. Mm-hmm. So, but the good ones will be willing to wait until next year, or I can help them find a breeder who can help them. If they stand out as great people, I'm happy to guide them. So,
and I should say maybe in general, is it hard for maybe the general Irish setter breeder to find homes, or are you finding it more difficult for people interested in puppies to actually find a good breeder?
I think that people the general public is struggling to find an Irish setter from a good breeder. Most people aren't willing to wait, and they'll compromise or settle and go to the less reputable breeders out there.
Okay.
So that's the disappointing part. You can't force people to be willing to wait a year to get their new puppy. And if we had more quality reputable breeders that were able to produce a litter or 2 a year, we could probably fill that a bit better. But there's a big void between, a lack of puppies from reputable breeders for the number of people who want to own Irish setters.
Okay. So let's talk about that a little bit. Maybe some of the more breed characteristics? Like, are Irish setters known to be more of a fast maturing breed? Like in the field, can you push them early? How do they take like force breaking and pressure methods?
So Irish setters are not fast developing dogs. They are slow maturing. We once in a while will find a dog who matures quicker than the average. And those are the dogs I strive to, 1, produce, and 2, breed to. Because often we'll see dogs who can't take the pressure of being broke before 2 or 3 years old. And that's not helping the common goal of, producing dogs who are competitive and able to take that pressure, because not everybody can be patient. And, so that's something we need more of in our breed, is that maturity, that early maturing dog. They tend to, when they're ready, I like to see the dogs that have resilience. And I feel like resiliency is more common these days. Dogs who can take that pressure in the training. I haven't seen a lot of force fetch with this breed, and that's because we're not required to retrieve when it comes to field trials. And the hunt test dogs, obviously, most of them are probably force fetched. But there is a lot of natural retrieve in this breed, more than I think people understand. And that's something I'm grateful for in my own dogs, soft mouths and natural retrieve. But if you have to put some structure into that and formalize it in force fetching, with my own dogs, I feel like they can really take it. And, they once they learn what you want from them, they want to do it, because my dogs tend to want to please you. But they need that structure and they need that guidance. And once you give it to them, when they're ready, they take it well.
What about their, more the natural ability? Are you seeing them be really pointy puppies at 8 weeks old, or is that something you're going to see further out, maybe 4 to 6 months old?
So it really depends on the breeding. I've had litters where half of them will point at 8 or 9 weeks solidly, and that's a good rate. Sometimes you'll get a little bit of slower maturing dogs, and they're not pointing until they're 12, 16 weeks. And that comes with, you got to find those people who are willing to be patient, because so many people, they're not all pointers. And I don't mean that as a slam at pointers, because I wish all of our dogs could be ready to be broke at 12 weeks, like some of those pointers are, but we don't get to do that. So, but I feel like there is some there's some of that natural ability. But they require people who can develop a little better than most. Like the people who own them need to understand that you can't just put them out in a field and expect them to point 95% of the birds, because a little bit of guidance up into that is going to increase your odds of actually having successful bird contacts. So
Sure. And you mentioned a little bit earlier about maybe the tracking ability. They aren't superstars on, but what about their search and their length of nose? Are you finding that you have field trial dogs, so I feel like their search is going to be pretty good, that they're getting out there, they're more independent, but as far as length of nose, are they typically a breed that will be more standing over top of the birds when they're on point, or are you finding a good distance in there?
I'd like to think that we have some good scenting, good noses, good ability to stand off our game. I know that part of that is genetic, but also a significant portion of that can be development. People allowing their dogs to get up and stand right over top of the bird. I'd like to blame that in the photos I see, as opposed to the dog's actual ability. But it's hard to say. I know that, like my show dogs, they both had respectable noses. They didn't tend to be too close, and they learned, once they had the experience, they were really able to find the birds and feel confident enough to point them well off their birds. But I see a lot of photos and videos of dogs standing right over top or within, 2, 3, looking right eye to eye to the bird. And It's hard to say whether that's because they've been allowed to, or because they just couldn't smell it until they were within that range. So,
sure. Okay. What about like overall in the breed? Like when you're at your national, are you seeing different behaviors or inconsistencies versus when you're at all breed pointing trials?
I think in the past 10 years, the Irish Setter National it's pretty competitive. There's some really, I feel like I've seen some progression, even though our numbers are dwindling. We're getting smaller and smaller every year, but I feel like our dogs are more competitive this year than last, and last year than the year before, and so on and so forth. But, there's some things that I see that I would like to say we lack at, but I feel like most of our dogs would be competitive at all breed trials, around the country. I think that that's probably a fair statement. I feel like they're up to par with the all breed trials that I attend and judge at.
Okay. What about their temperaments to live with in the house? Like, how are they generally around kids? Are they pretty high strung? Any dog aggression issues that are kind of known within the breed?
So the last thing I'd ever want to see in this breed, and I have yet to see it, and I hope I never have to see it, is aggression in general. I hope to goodness I never produce something that has any sign of aggression, whether it be even with dogs. This breed is supposed to be super funny, happy, excited, loving everything and everyone. That's what we want to see as breeders. We want dogs that love everything and everyone. In the household, I feel like if you develop them with some structure, the dogs can be very easy to live with. I find that all my dogs live at home with me. I don't have a kennel. I live in town. So everybody lives in the house. They're crate trained. We do a rotation system, so I don't have 4 dogs, standing on my couch staring at me at all times. So I feel like they can be very easy to live with in the house. Hyper is probably not the word I would use. And I hate the word hyper. I really think it's a drive thing. A lot of dogs have a little more drive than others. But my dogs tend to know the difference about being in the house versus loading up and going to the barn or, going to hunt and stuff. When they're outside, they're very different from when they're inside. I expect them to be, relaxed hangout dogs. My dogs love children. And most Irish setters I know love children. And if they don't, generally it's a spooky thing as opposed to an aggression thing. I think that often we'll get dogs who are just, they lack the confidence. They maybe haven't been as exposed and they're just unsure. I don't think that I've seen an aggressive dog due to just being aggressive, more so being scared, and that being their reaction. So, but I think, these are even tempered dogs and, very biddable and should be mild mannered in the house with the right guidance. Okay.
So, how would they do in a non-hunting home? Is this a breed that needs a job or you're going to start having some issues?
So these guys thrive with a job. Okay. I try to tell my puppy buyers when these dogs, they don't care what it is that you want them to do. They just want to do it. So whether that means sit stays or down stays in the evening while you're watching TV, or healing and recalls on a walk, mental stimulation is far superior to anything else you can offer these dogs if they don't have a regular job. Like we would as with our working dogs. So, if my potential buyers are willing to put in some work and develop, and give those dogs something to think about on a regular basis, then I feel like they can have these dogs can go to pet homes. But you can't expect this dog to be perfectly house trained, and have the perfect manners without some work. And so the less you engage them mentally, the more challenging they're going to become, especially from my side with the high drive working dogs. Very easily controllable, but you have to actually try.
Okay.
So.
How would the breed do if they were kept as kennel dogs versus being, in the house with you? Some breeds just need to be with their people all the time, or they like slip into this dog depression. Where are the Irish Setters in comparison?
So I would say that the field dogs tend to be just fine as kennel dogs. And I say that because when I deployed for work, to Afghanistan, my dogs all went to my field mentor, and at her kennel, they were there for 15 months, and they thrived. But they also had a job. But they were fine as kennel dogs. The show dogs are a bit more sensitive and do need that interaction and that time. And I think the house environment is best for the show style dogs. Dual dogs, those are pretty even tempered, and they could probably thrive anywhere you put them. So I don't like to anthropomorphize, but I feel like show dogs tend to be more sensitive and need that indoor house environment to thrive.
Sure.
The field dogs are a little more, they'll be fine. They'll make do. They're pretty stable.
So what do you think is like the most important piece of advice to focus on for somebody that's interested in getting this breed?
You definitely need to find a breeder who produces the kind of dogs that you enjoy being around. So just because somebody has an Irish setter doesn't mean it's the temperament you're looking for. And so getting to know the relatives, the parents, whatever. I realize sometimes you can't meet the sire or whatnot. But if you can meet the dam or aunts, uncles, that can really give you an insight. Know what you're looking at before you dive in. Get yourself acquainted with those specific lines to make sure that this is what you want.
What about health issues within the Irish setters? When people are screening breeders, what should they make sure that the breeder has tested for, that the Irish setters are well known to have as a health issue?
So in Irish setters, I call it the big three. We have hip dysplasia, we have thyroid issues, and we have PRA. Those are the primary things we have to worry about. PRA, it's the RCD1. It's a blinding disease that generally occurs before the age of 1 year old. It's genetically testable. And for the most part, knock on wood, we have almost eliminated it from the pool as far as reputable breeders with their Irish setters.
Okay. It
is very, very uncommon. I actually don't know of a single dog personally that is a carrier of PRA. And so that's kind of something that's pretty easily testable and easily able to be eliminated via genetics. Mm-hmm. Thyroid, obviously, we can't do as much with that, but we can test our breeding stock. We tend to see a little more hypothyroid than hyper, in my opinion, and my experience, I would say. But I also don't see that as much. And the last thing that we can test for is hip dysplasia. We do either OFA or pen hip. And obviously, even if you have excellent bred to excellent, bred to excellent, you can get your fair or mild dysplastic, so on and so forth. So it's important to know the history, but you still have to hope for the best, because sometimes the results don't always produce the quality results we're hoping for. So
but it definitely helps your odds of if you're getting a puppy from parents that are health tested.
Correct. Absolutely. Yeah. We want to see those parents health tested, but nothing's a guarantee. And that's why, you gotta, as a breeder, I try to develop that relationship with all of my buyers, because if something ever goes wrong, I want to know about it, because it's important for my breeding program. But two, I want to help owners find the right answers. So, but those are the three testable things. The other thing we kind of worry about with our breed is going to be two things, in my opinion, would be bloat and epilepsy. Those are the two big challenging ones. No test for them, obviously. We can't, just eliminate it from our breeding programs via genetic testing. I wish we could. I feel like personally, I would say that the show style dogs are a bit more prone to bloat because they're deeper chested, they're bigger framed. You see our field dogs are a little more shallow chested, less depth. Sure. So that's going to disallow or not quite encourage the bloat scenario from happening for those guys. But epilepsy is evenly spread. It exists. It's there. It's important to talk to your breeders, and hopefully they can be honest with you about their history.
Right. And there's no marker for epilepsy yet, right? No genetic.
Not yet.
Yeah. Okay. Describe the ideal owner for an Irish setter. If you could say, this type, whoever does this, or this type of person that has this kind of a lifestyle would be a perfect owner that would be great for this breed. Who would you describe?
I feel like it would be an active outdoors person, somebody that either likes to do some training with their dog or be engaged and go hiking or hunting with their dogs. Just, they have to be somebody who wants to develop a relationship with their dog and not just have their dog exist. Not just to be able to claim that they have a dog, but actually own the dog and have that relationship. If you're an outdoors person, this could be a great breed for you. If you're an indoors person, it can be as well. But they really thrive with the ability to go places and do things. And it doesn't always have to, they don't always have to be with you. I haven't dealt with a lot of separation anxiety in this breed. They will be fine when you leave them, but when you're there, they want you to be thinking about them a bit. They want some engagement before they relax for the evening. So anybody who can go places and do things with their dog, this is a great dog for you.
Do they seek to get into trouble? I feel like some breeds, you just can't ever trust them outside of their kennel because they're always looking for a child's sock to swallow or a pillow or something to rip apart. Are Irish setters, in your experience, are they pretty trustworthy to just hang out by themselves and not be naughty?
I think this is great because it reminds me of two specific dogs in my life. One was my female kitty that I had that I sent when I was deployed, that I sent off to the trainer. And she was the kind that, if I stepped outside to go get the mail and I come back in, and I would walk in the door and she would get off the couch and slink out of the room. And that told me she did something wrong and she just couldn't help herself. She had to do it while I stepped out of the house. So, she would give herself away every time. So, it's certain dogs are prone to that. For the most part, none of my dogs have any desire to go do things, but then I have the occasional dog, and I feel like there's a genetic component to this that has to eat things. They can't help it. They have to eat it. Sure. I have one dog who has eaten towel after towel and narrowly avoided surgery numerous times. And now this dog just doesn't get to have a bed when he's in his crate. Right. So, and he has been altered. He will never be bred, but that's for other reasons. But, that there's certain dogs and certain lines that can get themselves into trouble. And that comes with, getting to know the parents and talking to your breeder. As a whole, I don't think this breed is a super big troublemaker. I think that it's circumstantial depending on how they're raised and what they're allowed to do for the most part.
I like what you said there, the story with your female kitty, because my Irish setter, I could walk into the house and she would give me this look like I did something really naughty. She would just tattle on herself. Right.
It was like reading a book. You just posted a sign on your forehead, dog. You told me everything I needed to know.
Right. I definitely just tore apart that bag of dog treats. So yep, that bag's laying on the floor over there. I'm real sorry about that.
Kitty had done the same thing. She got into a bag of dog food. And I walked in the door and she looked away, got off the couch and just this over dramatic, like sleuth out of the room tiptoe. That's what she did every time she would do something.
It's so funny.
I mean, it was, frustrating, but hilarious.
Right. Towards the end of, Reagan, my dog's life, I would just kind of set her up for stuff like that. So she could be naughty and, feel that again of, oh, I just did this and I probably shouldn't have it. I'm going to let you know.
Hey, it's, you gotta let them win as they get older.
They enjoy it.
For sure.
But it wasn't because she was a naughty dog by any means. She was a fantastic dog, but
she just needed her little, what would he call it? It's almost like a little bit of a high for them. Like, yes, I did it.
Yep, definitely. I just own that bag of treats over there. So on the other hand, who wouldn't be an ideal owner? Like if you're going through puppy questionnaires, you're talking to a prospective puppy buyer, like, you know what? I just don't think this is going to be the breed for you. What does that person look like?
That person is probably somebody who's never owned a dog, for sure. You have to have some sense of, you've got to be smarter than this breed. And I know it sounds silly because they have such a reputation of being stupid. And I hate that because they're not. They can be very, very intelligent. You have to be smarter than your dog. So if people are pretty arrogant or ignorant, I try to avoid those people. They don't need to be owning a dog. Also, I feel like I work a lot, but I also get to take my dogs to work with me. And so like my better half works at home. So he's there with the dogs when I don't take them to work. Being left at home too long can cause a destructive behavior, and it's probably just not conducive to this breed. Especially as a young dog, that first year is prime time. They need that interaction. They need that structure. So that's kind of some of the guidelines, for this breed.
What can we expect to be the average price for an Irish Setter puppy? And does that vary, whether it's show or field bred?
Yeah, it does vary for sure. Okay. And I'm going to say this I'm not trying to be judgmental, but our show breeders most of them are doing all their health testing. And they're putting titles on their dog with handlers, and that costs money. And they're planning their breedings, and they're using that frozen semen, and they're doing this and that and everything else. And they're putting in a lot of money and a lot of testing with their dogs, and they're getting all the answers they need. And you're going to see prices for showbred Irish Setters are going to be $2,000 or more easily. Okay. I would expect $2,500 to be about average. And that would be with the individuals that I know in my life that are regularly producing showbred litters. You're looking right around $2,000 to $2,500. Okay. For the field style dogs, you're not going to see as much health testing, unfortunately. But at the same time, knock on wood, we're pretty lucky when it comes to health issues. We haven't seen as many, but we also don't have as many field-bred dogs as we do with showbred dogs. So I think that the field-bred dogs, you're going to see a price range somewhere around $800 to $2,000. I think that's probably our window, depending on the health testing or lack thereof, and also depending on the kennel and whether or not it's producing field champions, or if it's competing at all, or if they've ever even hunted their dogs. And that's the other joke, is that you're only going to find, if you're a hunting dog owner and you're looking for a hunting dog, you're going to find a lot of people that say their dogs can point, but you want to go to those people who actually compete and hunt with their dogs. So those prices are going to reflect upon those efforts. Okay. So
what about for field dogs? Because I really don't want to get into this for show dogs, but coat maintenance. What can we expect? If we just want that weekend hunter, I know with my Irish setter, like I would spray Pam in her hair. She was showbred, and so I did keep quite a few furnishings on there. But for the field Irish setter, I mean, they typically have a shorter coat. When you're running in trials or hunting, are you doing anything different with their coats or anything at all?
No, see, and coat texture and coat type is one of the more important physical attributes for me. I want that tight, hard coat. I don't want it to be the fluffy stuff. And genetics can contribute to that significantly. So I don't like to produce those fluffy dogs. But the other thing that contributes to that is spaying and neutering. I am not a fan of, I don't like to alter my dogs, and I try not, for most part, I don't plan to alter my dogs, because it can cause, we call it spay coat, whether it's spay or neuter, we call it spay coat because it takes them from being that tight, sleek, hard coat that doesn't catch doesn't catch anything on their backs and stuff to, and basically once you alter them, it can turn their whole coat into what would be comparable to their fringe on their bum or their front legs. They can get that kind of hair everywhere once you alter them, and it can really hinder their abilities unless you shave them down. So that's probably the two factors there.
And that really lightens up their coat too.
Absolutely. That spay coat, it looks like a dog that has a thyroid issue. It gets dry, brittle. It gets orangish, cottony. It can, cottony. And that's a great term for it. It's not appealing, and it's not easy to deal with. As puppies, the Irish setters, even the fieldbred dogs, you'll get them. I call it puppy coat. They have the fluffy stuff. It happens. They shed out of it in that first year. So some puppies will have it longer than others. You'll think that it's a poor coat, but if the parents have good tight coats, you want to try to disregard the fact that the puppy is fluffy because it's not always going to be fluffy. That's one thing I've dealt with my own buyers is people are like, where did all this fluff come from? It's just puppy fluff. They shed out of it. You just got to be patient. So, give them that first puppy year. So,
okay. What about in the heat? I mean, with their coats, do you find that they struggle in the heat at all?
No, I really don't. There's specific dogs that are challenged by heat, and I feel like there's a genetic component there because I've produced one, and I found out later on that his, unbeknownst to me, his sire was affected negatively by the heat. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it was very, very interesting to learn. So overall, this breed is really good in the heat. My dogs don't tend to struggle in it. And that's coming from dogs. They don't live outside. So that's kind of the fun part for me is they can go out and run on a hot day and be fine. But I also teach my dogs to love water. So, but for the most part, this dog is not going to be negatively affected by the heat any more than most your other darker colored dogs would be. The hair doesn't seem to affect them. The issues I do see are very specific to certain dogs, not the breed overall.
Right. And what state do you say you live in, Kelli?
I'm in Kansas.
You're in Kansas. So you have a good amount of heat down there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What are you doing right now for your training regimen?
So it's still pretty cool here. So we get out and train. I try to do conditioning in the mornings or in the evenings after work. That's really the best thing I can do. The nice thing is that where I run my dogs, I can essentially pond hop. So when the heat of the season comes and it's really hot, even after work, we'll run to a pond, we'll swim, cool off, get out of there, go to the next pond. And that basically is conditioning them plus cooling them off and conditioning them because swimming is fantastic conditioning for these dogs. Mm-hmm. So, that's what I do. And that's because that's the best thing I've got. I don't have a 4-wheeler to road my dogs. So I'm either on foot or on horseback running them, and doing that.
Yeah. So you said you lived in town. So how far away is your horse from you?
So they are boarded about 20 minutes away from me.
Okay. And you're taking your dogs out there Are you going out every day then for?
I try to go out about 5 days a week.
Okay.
Some days it's more, some days it's less. And then I'm pretty lucky because my barn owner has a significant amount of land and it holds several coveys of wild quail. So
Nice.
I'm allowed to train out there and work out there. Right now, I try to avoid it. I generally just go straight to the pond and back to the truck because I don't want to push quail right now. I want them to reproduce. So,
Yes.
but
Good
come
call.
fall, winter, and later summer, I work pretty hard out there and I see my fair share of quail for the most part.
Okay. So how long are you running your dogs off horseback when you're conditioning?
Oh, usually anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I mean, it just depends on the day. The way these grounds are set up for me, I'm able to make it into an hour loop. So I'm either doing a loop and a half or a figure eight type thing, or I just do a partial loop. So, but yeah, I'm usually shooting for an hour. Sometimes I have to hurry home. Sometimes I've got plenty of time and I can really kind of extend it and let them enjoy themselves.
Okay. How long is your national stake, your national gun dog stake?
So our national field trial lasts, we run it, over a period of a week. It starts on a Sunday and ends on a Saturday, but we have quite a bit of downtime in there because we just don't have the entries we used to. The Open National Championship or the National Field Championship is going to have generally 15 to 18 dogs if we're lucky. And our amateur championship is usually hovering right around 13 to 15. And that's scary because if you get below 13, you don't have a national anyways, it's not a championship anymore. So, we're really teetering there. And, the joke that shouldn't be a joke is we're one heart attack away from losing our nationals. So, we cherish every individual we have who comes and competes and supports it. And, it's kind of scary to look as a young individual at 32 or 35 or however old I think I am. I look at my breed and I see a lot of older generation and I realize that, when I'm that age, there probably won't be a national field trial for Irish setters. And that's devastating. That's absolutely devastating for me. So, we have a small breed. We have a small national field trial, but I cherish every year that I get to go because I know that it's not always going to exist.
Yeah. So give us a little pitch here. What could be some incentive for somebody with an Irish setter interested in getting an Irish setter to be able to give field trialing a try? Besides the obvious awesomeness of horses and dogs and the combination of one, it doesn't get better than that. It really doesn't. I like all the venues, but that horseback field trials are by far the most fun out of all of them, but also difficult because you have the horse component, right?
Yes,
as you know, somebody that lives in town. Yeah. But what are some of the other reasons to just give it a try?
I feel like a lot of people try it because they have a little bit of competitiveness and they want to know that their dog is better than other dogs. But really deep down, I go to the national because I love the people there and the history and learning about the dogs of the past. But for other people to be interested, I think that, when they attend, we tend to make the newcomers family. We're a small group, so we're very tight knit and we are very good at taking people in and making them feel welcome. Because we know that if we can get them to come back, we can make this last longer. And that's, something we all want to see. We want to see people involved. But, seeing your dog and your dog's relatives and dogs that you might be interested in breeding to down the road compete is why I think most of the newcomers like to come, and they've developed a friendship or a relationship with somebody that's involved, and that kind of entices them to attend. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. You nailed it, Kelly. Yeah, I know it is difficult with that extra component with the horses and horse trailer and getting to the events, but I think make friends, and you can usually find a wrangler at the field trial, a friend, mentor, another breeder, handler,
and that's
trainers.
Exactly it. There's, at this trial, everybody's willing to help you be able to get there and make it work. For the past 3 years, I've had new people attend past 4 years, a new family attend every year. And that was a huge accomplishment for me because 3 of those families have continued to return every year since they first attended. So, it's a matter of me saying, you get on this horse is safe for you. You get on this horse and go watch. And that, being able to see it, watch it up there, there's just nothing like it. And I feel like that's the kind of thing, if it wasn't me offering my horse, 8 other people standing around would offer up their horses, because we are really hoping to see more people come and more people get involved. So between the wrangler and the individuals that are attending, we love to see the support for new people coming and attending and falling in love with it. So we'll do anything to help them be able to witness how it works and the magic when you get to see it go well.
It is magic. It really is. It is a beautiful thing. Even go just to watch. And I double dare you not to come back the following year after you watch and want to do it yourself and get in on the fun, because it's a great time and a super welcoming sport.
Absolutely. It's amazing. It's just, there's nothing like it.
Yeah. So tell me share some of your brags. We haven't gotten to some of your brags and your wins, because I know you've done pretty dang well with your breeding and training program right there. Yeah,
I've been pretty lucky. I in the first litter I bred, I produced 3 field champions, 2 amateur field champions, 1 national amateur field champion, a national gun dog champion, and several classic winners just in that first litter. And since then, I've gone on to place at in American Field All Age Shooting Dog Championships, American Field All Age Shooting Dog Hour Stakes, which is pretty impressive. Meaning I've placed my dog among pointers, and that's fun when you get a red dog
awesome.
placing among the white dogs. So that's pretty exciting. I've more than win with my own dogs, I've scouted some really nice dogs. I've handled dogs for other people, and that's really fun for me because there's no pressure. I wasn't responsible for the training, and it's not my dog. If it doesn't win, I don't have to be mad or sad because, I'm always going to be sad because I didn't win with the dog, but it's no pressure because it wasn't my entry fee. It's not my dog, but I like to win. So, there's the drive there to be competitive with whoever's dog I'm running. So, that's just kind of a little glimpse of what I've achieved with my own dogs.
Well, it's pretty amazing, and wow. And in such a short time.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, really, it's been 11 years since I attended my first field trial. So it's not that long. And I'm pretty lucky that I've had some great people to guide me and to help me make things happen so that I can be where I am now. And, I'm grateful for them.
Excellent. Kelli, do you see yourself ever adding another breed in with your line?
So I have a token Vizsla. I only have her because she's also kind of red, and that's close enough. But I don't have any desire to breed any other dogs. I feel like it takes to breed both show and field dogs, it takes up a lot of mental space because I've got to study pedigrees and know health issues and really get in deep. And I don't have the mental capacity to do that with more than one breed. So, doing the appropriate amount of work to breed any other breed I wouldn't do it justice. So,
Sure.
I own a Vizsla. Maybe one day I'll own a different breed. If it was, it'd probably be either a Gordon setter or a pointer, because who doesn't want a pointer because they're born broke and yada,
Right.
yada, yada. But, for now, Irish setters are the only breed I'll ever, be a breeder of. And, that's where my heart lies.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love your dedication, your passion, and honestly, I just am damn fond of your competitiveness with with both of the different venues that you're competing in, and able to continue maintaining that with two separate lines. It's very cool in the same breed, and that you can appreciate, the conformation bred Irish setter and the field bred Irish setter for exactly, for those reasons. So, kudos to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Kelli, where can we find out more about the breed, and how can we connect with you and find out more about your personal breeding program?
So you can find me on Instagram. It's Quantonas, QUANTONAS_Irish. You can find me on Facebook. It's Kelli Aitken, AITKEN, and Kelli is with an I. And you can also find my website. It's www.quantonas.com. QUANTONAS again. So those are really the three big ways to find me: Instagram, Facebook, or my website. And then if you want to find out more about the breed, I recommend you go to the Irish Setter Club of America website. It's irishsetterclub.org, or the National Red Setter Field Trial Club. That's going to be where you find the red setter information and such. And both of those websites can give you guidance on where to go if you're looking for a reputable breeder of either side, whether it be AKC or FDSB American Field.
Perfect. Lots of resources right there. So I will make sure to put all those in the show notes as well, so that people are just one click away from getting the information they need on all things Irish setters and red setters.
Thank you very much, Courtney. I appreciate you doing that.
Thank you, Kelli, and thank you very much for your service. I appreciate you being with us today and enlightening us on this awesome breed.
Hey, it was a pleasure to chat with you, and I look forward to hopefully hearing from anybody who might be interested.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Bird Dog Babe podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, share it and tag me and someone that would benefit from listening. Please help me out by giving the podcast a rating and review on whichever platform you're listening from, and hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Be sure to join me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you're interested in some Bird Dog Babe swag or gear that I rely on, be sure to check out the store on thebirddogbabe.com. And most importantly, don't forget to support the organizations that are working hard to conserve the birds you're chasing after and the public lands in which you hunt.